Well, good evening, church family. I do hope that we're all continuing to do well and stay safe. I know we're all getting to see each other a little bit more, and I know that's very exciting for many of us. But I do want to continue these weekly updates to make sure that we're all doing all right and make sure that we're all staying encouraged, or hopefully so, that we're all staying encouraged through the middle of the week. I know, again, it's not ideal for our Wednesday night setting, but I do hope that you are able to gain some sort of encouragement or benefit from these weekly midweek studies. And I do want to give a thank you to all of those who are showing up to Sunday morning worship and cooperating despite the circumstances that we do have going on. And I want to thank those that are continuing to step up and help make that possible through leading in worship and making sure that everything is prepared and that we're taking the necessary precautions and just making sure that the whole thing flows nicely, that we're doing what we need to do, protecting our church family, and by extension, keeping the rest of the world safe, as it were. I do want to issue this very quick reminder, though, regarding our Sunday morning worship and whatnot, that we will continue to do them as we have been doing them, continue to, make sure that we're staying clean, make sure that we are wearing our masks and keeping the appropriate distance, just to make sure that we're, again, continuing to keep ourselves safe and keep others safe by extension. I know that as the virus continues to work its way down and places are starting to open back up again, we're seeing lots more cases of COVID-19 pop up. Many people fear that a second wave, a second spike in cases, is either here or on its way, and so I do hope that we're all continuing to do our part to stay safe and keep others safe. And again, if you still don't feel comfortable coming back to Sunday morning worship, if you still don't think the time's quite right, if you've got some other problems going on, then that is perfectly fine. We don't want to pressure anybody into this, but I do want to thank those that are showing up and cooperating despite how constrained it is. I do hope that you are blessed and benefited from our time together. I know I certainly am, and I pray that we'll continue to do this as we continue to find our new normal, figure out what our new normal is going to look like. When it comes to faithfulness in our lives, it seems to me, and I don't think I'm alone in this, that we usually put the focus on our own faithfulness, the faithfulness that we have and that we produce in our own lives. Because sometimes our faithfulness, it can be difficult to keep it up, It's a difficult thing to make sure that it is nourished and growing in a very healthy manner, because there are lots of obstacles to our faith. You hop on social media, Twitter, for instance. I was on Twitter this morning, and already I felt my faith challenged. There are so many things that get in the way, so many things that people say that can discourage us, discourage our faith, plant those seeds of doubt, make us question, why we're doing this, what's the point in all of this. And so we need encouragement. Our faithfulness needs encouragement, and it's in need of building up. And so it's all well and good that we do put focus on our own faithfulness, because it does need that encouragement. It needs that growth and that build up to make sure that it is healthy and maintained in a proper way. In fact, Paul tells us in Galatians to bear each other's burdens. So as our different situations pop up, our different issues and problems that arise, taking on many different forms, some of which being doubt, some of which being a weak faith, lack of faithfulness, we as Christians ought to want to build each other up. We are a family, a church family. We are a community together. Christianity is not a solo act. And so as we have these different problems in our lives, I hope and pray that we as Christians should be wanting to help edify each other, to help build each other up and comfort each other as we find ourselves in these problems. And so I say all that to say that, we get focused on our own faithfulness in our lives, and that's all okay. That's well and good. But sometimes it seems like we're so focused on our own faithfulness that we tend to, I don't want to say forget, but at least show less or a lack of appreciation or acknowledgement of God's faithfulness in our lives. And I think that's because that is an aspect that God holds up so perfectly, so consistently. We never have to worry about God's faithfulness. It just becomes a part of our lives. It's just the norm. It's what we're used to. It's what we expect. And it kind of blends into the background in that case. And because of that, I don't think we acknowledge it as much as perhaps we ought to. That's kind of what I want to talk about tonight, is not our faithfulness. Let's take a step back and instead focus on the faithfulness of God and how that affects our lives. Because I think that we should acknowledge the faithfulness of God. You know, it is a very important part of our lives, and as such, I think we should acknowledge it. You know, as God made covenants throughout human history, especially in the Old Testament, you know, and we read about those events happening, the focus is usually once again placed on the faithfulness of us, the humans, the people in that situation, you know, and how we as people don't always do our part in those covenants. We don't always uphold our end of the deal. We don't always uphold our own faithfulness in those situations. And so then the focus shifts to our faith. Any discussion, sermon, lesson in talking about those situations will focus on our faithfulness, the faithfulness of humans, and how we struggle with upholding our end of the deal. And again, that is good. It helps keep our faith accountable. It helps keep us accountable and making sure that we are doing what we ought to do and making sure that our faithfulness is where it needs to be. But again, it seems like the faithfulness of God kind of gets lost in the shuffle as we place the focus continuously on ourselves. And so I think that's important for us to remember, especially today, that even when we are not faithful, even when our faithfulness lacks and fails, God's faithfulness never fails. He is always faithful. And that brings us to our key text tonight. That's 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 3, if you want to turn there tonight. And it reads, "But the Lord is faithful, and He will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one." You know, sometimes I kind of wonder if God's faithfulness puts him in a, for lack of a better term, difficult situation. Not that it's difficult and that God can't handle it or that he struggles with it. Again, this is coming from a human and earthly perspective on just how this would be handled. But it seems like it would be difficult in how we view or appreciate God and his faithfulness because he is so consistent in it. You know, it's like when things are going well in our lives, things are good, we don't have as many concerns, you know, we tend to take God's faithfulness for granted because we're so focused on the good in our lives and what's going on that it just kind of, again, blends into the background. But then on the other hand, when things aren't going well in our lives and we're facing those storms and those struggles and problems, we ask, you know, where are you, God? Where is God in all of this? And so it just seems to me like it would be a lose-lose situation to have that consistent, perfect faithfulness of God, that when things are going good, we take it for granted, and when things aren't going good, we wonder where he is. And so I just wonder what kind of situation that puts God in with his faithfulness. And it makes me glad that I am not God, because I know I couldn't handle it. But it also makes me glad that God is, because he can handle it. You know, there is a lot going on in the world right now, and as a result, there's a lot going on in our lives right now. I know there always has been, but it just seems so magnified and amplified, especially in this year of 2020, that there are so many things and issues and problems going on in the world around us that do tend to creep and bleed into our own lives. And so I want to issue this reminder to all of us who are dealing with this, that God has already overcome. And through him, we can overcome too, we as Christians, his children and his followers. Remember that God is faithful. We have it right there in black and white for us in the Bible, in scriptures. And I want us to also remember that the storms that we are weathering in our lives, they will pass. And we will emerge on the other side more experienced. We will emerge wiser. And I hope and pray that we will use the experience we gained weathering those storms to in turn help others, to help them through their own storms in their lives. And then by example and doing that, show them the faithfulness of God. I want to thank you all for your time and attention tonight. I do hope and pray that these very brief Wednesday night devotionals are an encouragement to you, that you do find them beneficial and they have some application for us in our lives. Again, I know they're not ideal, but I do want to thank all of you who do tune in and watch these each and every week. Stay tuned to our Facebook page and YouTube channel for more announcements as we continue to figure out where our church needs to go in all of this, all that's going on in the world. Be praying for us, be praying for leaders around the world, church leaders, as they start to open back up and figure out what they need to do. Again, be blessed, be safe, bless others, and Lord willing, I'll see you all on Sunday morning.